Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back, way back, to a time when silence wasn't just a lack of noise, but perhaps a way of life. Imagine, if you will, the warm, dry air of ancient plains caressing your skin as you stand on the dusty outskirts of a city unlike any other. Before you, a sprawling metropolis, built not with towering monuments or fearsome fortifications, but with quiet, unassuming elegance. Mohenjo-daro, or perhaps Harappa, rises from the earth, its baked brick walls a muted ochre against the pale sky. No clanging chariots or shouting merchants assail your ears. Instead, a hushed tranquility seems to settle over everything. It's almost unnerving, this peaceful urban hum, a stark contrast to the cacophony you're used to. You see no grand statues of fearsome kings, no ostentatious displays of wealth. Just orderly rows of houses, seemingly identical, stretching into the hazy distance. This is the Indus Valley civilization, a society so remarkably calm, so seemingly uneventful, that you probably wouldn't survive a single week here without craving a good old-fashioned argument, or at least a loud street vendor. They did things differently. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling up to it, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see how far these sleepy stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take your first tentative steps into the city, feeling the smooth, worn earth beneath your bare feet. The streets are remarkably wide, almost disconcertingly so, perfectly straight, and laid out in an impeccable grid. You'd think they had spirit levels and measuring tapes, rather than just sheer intuition. The air carries a faint scent of wood smoke and something earthy, perhaps baking bread, mingling with the dried dust. You pass by drainage channels, surprisingly advanced, running alongside the pathways, a testament to a civic planning that would make many modern cities blush. No open sewers here, no overflowing refuse. Everything seems to have its place, a meticulous order that speaks volumes about the people who lived here, though they remain largely a mystery to us. You peer into an open doorway of a house. Inside, it's cool and dim, remarkably uniform. Two-story structures, mostly, with sturdy brick walls and flat roofs. It's not opulent, not grand, but functional, practical, and remarkably consistent from one dwelling to the next. It's almost as if everyone agreed on a communal blueprint for comfortable living. No McMansions, no sprawling estates for the elite, or at least, none that are immediately obvious. This architectural uniformity is a mainstream historical fact that continues to puzzle archaeologists. They wonder, was it a communal society, or simply one where the concept of individual ostentation was frowned upon? You notice a small, oddly shaped brick, meticulously placed in the wall. It's slightly discolored, almost like a thumbprint left by the brickmaker thousands of years ago. A quirky detail, perhaps, but it reminds you of the quiet hands that built this place. Historians still argue whether this uniformity suggests a powerful central authority or a profoundly egalitarian society. Either way, they certainly valued neatness. As you delve deeper into the quiet heart of the city, the sheer brilliance of their urban planning begins to sink in. You're not just wandering through a collection of buildings. You're experiencing a meticulously designed ecosystem. The streets, as you've already noted, are incredibly wide, often branching off into narrower lanes, but always maintaining that precise, almost obsessive, grid pattern. It's so efficient, you half expect to see tiny, ancient traffic cones. And then there are the drainage systems. Oh, the drainage systems. This is a mainstream historical fact that never ceases to amaze. Every house, it seems, was connected to a sophisticated network of covered drains, made of precisely laid bricks, and often equipped with manholes for inspection. Imagine a civilization thousands of years ago, more concerned with public sanitation than many places in the modern world. You could almost hear a gentle gurgle of water beneath your feet, quietly carrying away waste, a testament to their foresight and perhaps their innate desire for cleanliness. It's enough to make you consider if your own municipal waterworks are up to snuff. You notice subtle ramps leading up to some of the larger public buildings, not for chariots, it seems, but perhaps for moving goods or, more likely, for easing the flow of foot traffic. This calm, methodical approach to urban design extends even to the placement of wells. Every few blocks, you encounter a communal well, often lined with tapered bricks, deep and cool, providing fresh water for the neighborhood. No frantic scrambles for water here, no long queues under the blazing sun. It all feels so cooperative. It's almost as if everyone had a say in how the city was run, or at least, everyone agreed on the fundamental principles of communal living. A quirky tidbit: some archaeologists believe the uniformity of their bricks, often in a precise 4:2:1 ratio, might indicate a standardized system of weights and measures, hinting at a very organized, almost bureaucratic, society, long before the term bureaucracy was even a whisper. You can almost picture ancient Harappan inspectors with their little brick measuring sticks. This incredible attention to detail, this consistent standard across vast distances, is genuinely perplexing. Historians still argue whether this advanced planning was mandated by a powerful, centralized government, a priestly class, or if it was simply a deeply ingrained cultural value, a shared understanding of what made a city function smoothly and peacefully. There's no clear evidence of a ruling palace or a grand temple complex dominating the cityscape, which is quite different from many other ancient civilizations. You don't feel the oppressive presence of a king or an emperor. Instead, you feel a sense of calm, collective responsibility. The silence of the city isn't just an absence of noise. It's the quiet hum of a well-oiled machine, functioning with a serene efficiency. You might even catch a glimpse of a faint shimmering heat haze rising from the distant walls, a testament to the warmth of the sun on those ancient bricks. It's so well-ordered, you could probably navigate it blindfolded and still find your way to the nearest public well for a refreshing drink. You find yourself wondering if they ever had a rebellious teenager who tried to build a house with crooked bricks, just to annoy everyone. Unlikely, you muse, in a place so utterly devoted to tidiness. You wander now among the mud brick homes, and what strikes you most is their remarkable similarity. It's a mainstream historical fact that across the vast expanse of the Indus Valley civilization, from Harappa to Mohenjo-Daro, and even smaller sites, the residential architecture maintained an astonishing degree of uniformity. Imagine, if you will, a housing development built thousands of years ago, where every house looks almost identical to its neighbor. You won't find sprawling palaces or towering, ostentatious villas here, no grand declarations of individual wealth or power. Instead, you see two-story dwellings, typically featuring several rooms arranged around a central courtyard, a well, and, of course, their own private bathroom connected to that revolutionary drainage system you admired earlier. It's almost as if they had an ancient homeowners association with incredibly strict bylaws on exterior design. You step into one of these quiet courtyards. The sun, though warm, doesn't feel oppressive, thanks to the thick brick walls that keep the interior cool. You notice the absence of large windows facing the street. Instead, openings are small or face inward, creating a sense of privacy and perhaps a quiet refuge from the outside world. This design choice, a quirky tidbit, suggests a culture that valued seclusion and personal space, a stark contrast to some ancient societies where life spilled out onto bustling public squares. You can almost imagine the gentle sounds of daily life echoing softly within these enclosed spaces, the rhythmic thump of grinding grain, the quiet murmuring of conversations, the soft splashing of water from a courtyard well. There's a certain peace to it, a lack of overt display that feels incredibly grounding. The materials themselves are humble, fired mud bricks, expertly laid. They aren't fancy, but they are incredibly durable and practical for the climate. You might even spot the faint imprint of a hand on a brick, a tiny, unintentional signature from a builder long ago, a ghost of a touch from the past. Historians still argue whether this widespread architectural uniformity points to a centralized, controlling authority dictating building codes, or if it was simply the most practical and efficient way to build in their environment, a shared understanding of effective construction. There's no clear evidence of a ruling class living in grander dwellings, which makes their social structure a bit of a riddle wrapped in a quiet enigma. It's almost as if everyone decided, you know what? This works. Let's all just build like this. No keeping up with the Joneses here, unless the Joneses also had a two-story mud brick house with excellent drainage. You might even feel a whisper of calm here, a sense that even then, people understood the simple comfort of a well-built, unpretentious home. As you continue your quiet exploration, your gaze inevitably falls upon something truly remarkable, yet maddeningly silent: the mysterious Indus script. This is a mainstream historical fact that has baffled scholars for decades. Everywhere you look, on small seals, on pottery fragments, even occasionally on copper tablets, you see tiny, intricate symbols. There are hundreds of them, depicting everything from human figures and animals to geometric shapes and abstract designs. You might spot a little fish symbol, or perhaps a curious U-shape, or even what looks like a tiny, stylized human with outstretched arms. They are elegantly carved, often in miniature, suggesting a meticulous attention to detail. You instinctively lean closer, trying to decipher them, but they offer no immediate clues. Unlike the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt or the cuneiform of Mesopotamia, the Indus script remains unread, a locked door to the minds of these ancient people. It's a tantalizing enigma. You might even feel a slight shiver of frustration, imagining the countless hours archaeologists have spent poring over these tiny marks, trying every linguistic key they can imagine, only to be met with silent defiance. Some scholars believe it's a true language, capable of expressing complex thoughts, while others argue it might be more of a system of symbols, perhaps religious or economic in nature, rather than a full phonetic script. A quirky tidbit: some of the most common symbols appear on small, square, or rectangular steatite seals, often with a boss, a perforated projection, on the back, suggesting they were used for administrative purposes, perhaps stamping goods or identifying ownership. You can almost picture an ancient merchant calmly pressing their personal seal onto a bale of cotton, a quiet mark of ownership in a quiet world. Historians still argue whether this script represents a spoken language, a complex symbolic system, or something else entirely. The absence of long inscriptions, like the Rosetta Stone that unlocked Egyptian hieroglyphs, makes decipherment incredibly challenging. It's like having all the letters of an alphabet, but no dictionary and no known words. You can almost feel the quiet weight of history in these undeciphered characters, a silent whisper from a civilization that has yet to fully reveal its inner thoughts. It makes you wonder what stories, what jokes, what daily routines are hidden within these tiny symbols. Perhaps a recipe for a particularly delicious lentil stew, or maybe a quiet complaint about the neighbor's noisy children. Though, given the overall tranquility, perhaps not the latter. It's a reminder that even in a seemingly simple society, there can be profound, unsolved mysteries lurking just beneath the surface. Your silent journey through the city brings you to perhaps its most iconic and intriguing feature: the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro. This is a mainstream historical fact, a truly impressive engineering feat that still stands testament to their advanced understanding of water management. You stand before a massive, rectangular tank, some 12 meters long, 7 meters wide, and 2.4 meters deep, constructed with finely fitted bricks and made watertight with a natural tar sealant. It's remarkably well preserved, almost pristine in its ancient calm. You can almost feel the gentle breeze wafting across the empty basin. Imagine it filled with sparkling, clear water, drawn from a nearby well, and perhaps drained into a large outlet. The steps leading down into the bath are broad and inviting, not steep or treacherous, suggesting a deliberate design for easy access and perhaps a leisurely descent. No frantic cannonballs or boisterous splashing here, you imagine, but rather a quiet, almost reverent atmosphere. Was it for ritual purification? A communal bathing spot for the entire populace? Or perhaps a special place for an elite, if such a class even existed in this remarkably egalitarian-seeming society? The precise function remains a gentle mystery. A quirky tidbit: adjacent to the Great Bath are smaller rooms, some with wells and bathing platforms, suggesting a more private aspect to their hygiene rituals, perhaps for personal washing before or after a larger communal event. It's almost as if they had ancient changing rooms, complete with individual showers. You can almost hear the soft trickling of water from clay pots. Historians still argue whether the Great Bath served a purely religious purpose, a place for ceremonial ablutions, or if it was more communal, a public swimming pool of sorts, albeit one designed for solemnity rather than recreation. The lack of overt religious iconography around it makes a definitive answer elusive. Whatever its purpose, it speaks volumes about their devotion to cleanliness and perhaps a shared sense of community. You can picture yourself slowly descending those wide steps, the cool water rising around your ankles, a sense of quiet calm washing over you, a moment of profound, shared tranquility in a world that often feels anything but. No yelling children, no splashing, just a serene dip, perhaps at sunrise. It truly was a testament to their quiet, methodical approach to daily life. Moving from the cool embrace of the Great Bath, you find yourself drawn to the quiet rhythm of the city's workshops, where the sounds are subtle, precise. Here, you observe artisans engaged in crafting for daily serenity. This is a mainstream historical fact. The Indus Valley people were remarkably skilled craftspeople, yet their output often speaks of practicality and subtle beauty rather than grand spectacle. You might hear the gentle scraping of a potter's tool as they shape a perfectly symmetrical jar, or the quiet tap-tap-tap of a stone carver meticulously shaping beads. You see evidence of their mastery in various forms. Small, exquisitely carved steatite seals, like those you saw with the mysterious script, are everywhere. These aren't just utilitarian. Many feature highly detailed animals. A powerful bull with sweeping horns, an enigmatic unicorn-like creature, or a calm elephant. They are tiny works of art, each one suggesting hours of patient, focused work. A quirky tidbit: among the artifacts discovered, archaeologists have found miniature terracotta carts, complete with tiny wheels, often interpreted as children's toys, but perhaps also models for larger, real-life vehicles. You can almost imagine a tiny hand pushing one along a smooth floor, the only sound the soft click of terracotta. Then there are the beads. Oh, the beads. They crafted astonishingly uniform beads from carnelian, lapis lazuli, and even precious metals. Imagine the tedious, precise work required to drill a perfectly straight hole through a tiny carnelian bead using only ancient tools. It speaks to an incredible patience and an almost meditative focus. Historians still argue whether the standardization of these crafts suggests a state-controlled production system, ensuring quality and uniformity, or if it was simply a cultural preference for consistency and practicality. There's a distinct lack of bling compared to other ancient cultures. Their jewelry and adornments are often simple, elegant, and functional. No massive gold chains or diamond-encrusted crowns here, just understated pieces that hint at a quiet appreciation for beauty in the everyday. It's a testament to a society that seemed to value skill and utility over ostentation, finding beauty in the quiet mastery of a craft. From the quiet workshops, your imagination stretches beyond the city walls, envisioning the trade routes, gentle exchanges that connected the Indus Valley civilization to a wider, yet still largely tranquil, ancient world. This is a mainstream historical fact. Despite their seemingly isolated nature, the Harappans were active participants in a vast trade network that stretched as far as Mesopotamia and the Arabian Peninsula. You can almost feel the dry desert winds carrying the scent of distant lands. Imagine, not bustling caravans with clashing cymbals and shouting merchants, but perhaps slow, deliberate movements of goods. You might picture rafts laden with timber floating gently down the Indus River, or small, sturdy boats navigating coastal waters. The goods themselves tell a quiet story: carnelian beads from Gujarat, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, copper from Oman, and timber from the Himalayas. These weren't just exotic luxuries. They were vital raw materials for their thriving crafts. A quirky tidbit: archaeologists have discovered Indus seals in Mesopotamian cities like Ur, suggesting direct or indirect contact. You can almost see a Mesopotamian scribe scratching his head over a tiny Harappan seal, wondering about the peaceful people who made it. Their primary exports are believed to have been agricultural products like cotton. They were among the first to cultivate it, and various grains, as well as finished goods like beads and shells. Unlike some contemporaneous civilizations that boasted of military conquests to secure trade routes, there's no evidence of large-scale warfare associated with Indus trade. This leads to a fascinating question: how did they manage such extensive networks peacefully? Historians still argue whether this peaceful trade was facilitated by a common legal framework, a shared religious understanding, or simply a pragmatic recognition of mutual benefit. There are no records of trade disputes or armed escorts mentioned in Mesopotamian texts when referring to the Meliahans, which is believed to be their name for the Indus people. It's almost as if they just politely exchanged goods, perhaps with a quiet nod of mutual respect, rather than a boisterous haggle. You might even hear the soft creak of a wooden cart wheeling slowly over uneven ground, carrying precious cargo to a distant, equally quiet land. With thoughts of distant lands now gently fading, your attention turns to the more intimate, quiet aspects of daily life, specifically wholesome Harappan cuisine. This is a mainstream historical fact. The Indus Valley people were primarily an agricultural society, and their diet was rich in staple crops. Imagine the rhythmic sound of grinding stones, a soft, consistent hum, as grains are prepared for the day's meals. You might catch the earthy aroma of cooked lentils or the sweet scent of simmering dates. Their fields, watered by the mighty Indus River and its tributaries, yielded a bounty of food. You can picture vast expanses of wheat and barley swaying gently in the breeze, forming the bedrock of their sustenance. They also cultivated various pulses, like chickpeas and lentils, and, remarkably, they were among the earliest people to grow rice and cotton. A quirky tidbit: the discovery of date seeds at various sites suggests dates were a common and perhaps cherished part of their diet, adding a touch of natural sweetness. You can almost taste the sticky sweetness of a fresh date, a quiet pleasure in a simple meal. But it wasn't all vegetarian. Evidence suggests they supplemented their diet with fish from the river and coastal waters, and domesticated animals like cattle, sheep, and goats likely provided milk and occasional meat. Imagine the quiet lowing of cattle in the distance, or the soft bleating of goats. Historians still argue whether their diet was largely vegetarian by choice or by necessity, given the lack of extensive evidence for large-scale animal husbandry for meat production. What is clear is that their meals were likely simple, hearty, and balanced, a testament to their efficient agricultural practices. You can almost see yourself sitting cross-legged on the cool floor of a courtyard, sharing a meal of flatbreads, lentil stew, and a handful of dates. The only sounds the gentle chewing and the quiet hum of the breeze. It was a diet built on the quiet abundance of the land, providing nourishment without fanfare. As you imagine the simple, wholesome meals, your thoughts naturally drift to the dress codes of calm that would have adorned the people of the Indus Valley. This is a mainstream historical fact. Based on figurines and seals, it appears their attire was remarkably simple and functional, perfectly suited to the warm climate. You won't find elaborate, layered garments or heavy, jewel-encrusted robes here. Instead, picture swathes of finely woven fabric, draped and wrapped with an understated elegance. For men, this often seems to have been a simple loincloth or a dota-like garment, perhaps paired with an unstitched piece of cloth draped over the shoulders. For women, evidence points to skirts, often ankle-length, along with a shawl or cloak that could cover the upper body. The material, a quirky tidbit, was almost certainly cotton. As we discussed, they were pioneers in cotton cultivation. Imagine the soft, breathable quality of hand-spun cotton against the skin, perfectly suited for the warm, dry climate. You can almost feel the gentle breeze lifting the edges of a loose, unadorned shawl. There is a distinct lack of ostentatious jewelry or elaborate headdresses that you might see in depictions from other ancient civilizations. While some ornaments like shell bangles, terracotta beads, and occasionally necklaces of steatite or carnelian have been found, they tend to be subtle and practical rather than overtly decorative. Historians still argue whether this simplicity in dress reflects an egalitarian society where social hierarchies were downplayed, or if it was simply a practical adaptation to their environment and available resources. There's no grand regalia to indicate kings or queens, just a quiet uniformity in their attire. It's almost as if everyone decided comfort and practicality were the ultimate fashion statements. You might even feel a sense of liberation at the thought of such uncomplicated clothing, free from the constraints of complex tailoring or heavy embellishments. Their clothing, like their cities, speaks of a quiet confidence, unburdened by the need for grand displays. From the simplicity of their clothing, Your imagination drifts to the lighter side of life in the Indus Valley, considering the toys and gentle amusements that might have occupied their days. This is a mainstream historical fact. Despite their pragmatic approach to city building and daily life, the Harappan people clearly made time for play, as evidenced by the numerous small artifacts discovered. You might almost hear the soft clatter of terracotta shapes or the quiet whir of a spinning top. Among the most charming finds are the incredibly detailed miniature terracotta carts, some with tiny wheels, often with a small humped bull or other animal figurine attached. These aren't just decorative. Many show signs of wear, suggesting they were indeed used, perhaps by children pulling them along the smooth earth. A quirky tidbit: archaeologists have also unearthed a fascinating array of small animal figurines, from monkeys climbing trees to dogs and birds. Some even have holes, perhaps for strings, hinting at primitive puppets or pull toys. You can almost picture a quiet child, lost in imaginative play, making soft animal noises with these ancient playthings. Beyond the toys, there's evidence of games. Board games, though the exact rules are unknown, are suggested by carved game boards with grids, reminiscent of dice games or early forms of chess. Imagine two individuals, sitting calmly on a cool floor, quietly moving small game pieces, perhaps made of polished stone or shell. Historians still argue whether these games had any ritualistic or social significance beyond simple entertainment, or if they were purely for leisure. The absence of warlike toys or depictions of aggressive sports further reinforces the image of a largely peaceful society. It's almost as if their entertainment was as understated and composed as the rest of their lives. You might even feel a quiet smile spread across your face, realizing that even thousands of years ago, the simple joy of a child at play or friends engaging in a quiet game transcended time and culture. As you reflect on their quiet games, your gaze might settle on the ubiquitous depictions of animals, companions, and symbols within the Indus Valley. This is a mainstream historical fact. Animals played a significant and often revered role in their culture, appearing frequently on seals, pottery, and in figurine form. You won't find them depicted as fearsome beasts of war or sacrificed in gruesome rituals. Instead, they appear as calm, majestic, or even playful presences. The humped bull, often depicted with a single horn, leading to the unicorn theory, a quirky tidbit, though it's likely a profile view of a two-horned bull, is perhaps the most iconic. It appears on countless seals, often standing before a mysterious manger-like object or a stylized altar. You can almost feel its quiet strength, its patient gaze. Were these animals sacred? Were they symbols of fertility, power, or perhaps even deities? The exact meaning remains a gentle riddle. Other animals, like elephants, rhinoceroses, and even tigers, appear on seals, often with an almost contemplative stillness. Dogs, too, seem to have been domesticated, their figurines found in quiet domestic settings, hinting at their role as loyal companions. You might even imagine the soft panting of a dog resting beside its human companion in a shaded courtyard. Historians still argue whether the animal depictions represent actual species, totemic symbols, or deities. The absence of a single, dominant human-like deity on their seals further emphasizes the unique nature of their belief system, where animals seem to hold a special, silent significance. There's a particular seal, for example, depicting a figure seated in a yogic posture, surrounded by animals, often referred to as the Pashupati, or Lord of Animals seal. It suggests a deep connection to the natural world and a reverence for its creatures, a quiet spirituality woven into the fabric of their lives. It's almost as if the animal kingdom held a secret language of wisdom that they quietly understood. As you consider the quiet reverence for animals, a larger, more profound question about the Indus Valley civilization begins to emerge, that of their peaceful governance, hidden power. This is a mainstream historical fact that profoundly distinguishes them from many contemporaneous civilizations. There is a striking absence of overt signs of centralized, militaristic rule. You won't find imposing palaces, massive royal tombs, or grand temples that dominate the cityscape, nor extensive weaponry or depictions of warfare. It's almost as if they ran things with a polite suggestion rather than an iron fist. Instead of a fearsome king or a powerful priestly class, Archaeologists grapple with how such an organized, vast civilization managed itself so effectively and for so long without clear evidence of top-down control. Was it a council of elders? A collection of city-states cooperating? Or perhaps a system based on shared cultural values and civic duty, a quiet form of self-governance? A quirky tidbit: the uniformity in brick sizes, city planning, and standardized weights and measures across vast distances strongly suggests some form of centralized authority or a very effective system of communication and consensus. It's like they all silently agreed to play by the same rules, which, frankly, is harder to achieve than a full-blown revolution. Historians still argue whether the apparent lack of monumental architecture and extensive military fortifications indicates a genuinely peaceful society, or if their power structures were simply less overt and more communal than those of, say, ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. Perhaps religious leaders held sway, but their influence was subtle and guiding rather than dictatorial. You can almost imagine quiet, respectful meetings in a communal building, where decisions were made through calm deliberation rather than forceful decree. There's a palpable sense of communal harmony, an almost utopian calm that pervades the archaeological record. No grandstanding, no flexing of military might, just the quiet hum of a society that somehow managed to maintain order and prosperity without needing to shout about it. It makes you wonder if they secretly had a truly terrifying system of polite disapproval. As the quiet hum of their daily governance settles, your thoughts inevitably turn to the ultimate stillness, their burial rites, quiet departures. This is a mainstream historical fact. Archaeological excavations have revealed various burial practices within the Indus Valley civilization, offering a glimpse into their understanding of death and the afterlife, which appears to have been as understated and serene as their lives. You won't find the elaborate, gold-laden tombs of Egyptian pharaohs or the dramatic human sacrifices sometimes associated with other ancient cultures. Instead, the burials often consist of simple inhumations, with the deceased laid to rest in extended positions, sometimes in wooden coffins, often in burial pits lined with brick. The grave goods, a quirky tidbit, are typically modest: a few pieces of pottery, some simple ornaments, or perhaps a small amount of food. This suggests a belief in a peaceful transition rather than a need for vast provisions in the afterlife. It's almost as if they believed the journey beyond was one that required quiet contemplation, not a noisy entourage. You might imagine the soft rustle of dry earth as a loved one is gently placed into their final resting place, a quiet moment of sorrow and acceptance. Historians still argue whether the uniformity and simplicity of these burials indicate a lack of significant social stratification in death, or if the most powerful individuals had different, as yet undiscovered burial customs. The absence of monumental funerary architecture is particularly notable. It suggests a focus on the spiritual journey of the individual rather than a public display of grief or status. There's a palpable sense of dignity and tranquility in their approach to death, mirroring the calm order of their lives. It's as if their final act was simply another quiet custom, a peaceful passing from one state to another, without fanfare or grand pronouncements. From the quiet dignity of their final rest, our story inevitably turns to the greatest mystery surrounding this tranquil civilization: its decline and quiet disappearance. This is a mainstream historical fact that continues to puzzle scholars. After flourishing for over 1,000 years, the Indus Valley civilization slowly, subtly faded away around 1900 BCE. You won't find evidence of sudden, catastrophic invasions or widespread massacres that brought them to an abrupt end. Instead, it was a gradual, almost imperceptible waning. Imagine a slow retreat, a gradual abandonment rather than a violent collapse. The precise reasons remain a topic of gentle academic debate, a complex puzzle with many possible pieces. One leading theory, a quirky tidbit, points to climate change. The mighty Indus River, their lifeblood, may have changed its course or experienced prolonged periods of drought, making agriculture unsustainable in certain regions. You can almost feel the dry dust swirling, the subtle shift in the winds. Another theory suggests increased monsoonal variability, leading to devastating floods or unpredictable farming seasons. Perhaps the quiet efficiency of their urban planning couldn't withstand the persistent force of nature's subtle shifts. Historians still argue whether internal factors, such as environmental degradation from over-irrigation or even a quiet breakdown of their intricate social or trade networks, contributed more significantly to their decline than external pressures. There's no single, dramatic event, no grand cataclysm that marks their end. Instead, it seems like a slow unraveling, a quiet migration of people away from the great cities, perhaps seeking more hospitable lands. You can almost picture the silent departure of families, carrying their few possessions, leaving behind the meticulously planned streets and empty houses. It was a civilization that simply, quietly, faded into the sands of time, leaving behind a legacy of order and ingenuity that continues to whisper from the earth. Despite their quiet disappearance, the Indus Valley civilization left an enduring legacy, whispered echoes that resonate through history. This is a mainstream historical fact. Even though their script remains unread and their ultimate fate a mystery, their innovations and customs quietly influenced subsequent cultures in the Indian subcontinent and beyond. You might feel a faint ripple in the air, a ghost of their meticulous planning and peaceful coexistence. Imagine the subtle adoption of their sophisticated urban planning techniques. While no direct successors emerged as grand, planned cities in quite the same way, the idea of organized settlements, of advanced drainage, and the use of standardized bricks likely filtered down and evolved over centuries. A quirky tidbit: some scholars suggest that the concept of a great bath, or ritual bathing in tanks, might have influenced later Hindu temple architecture and bathing rituals, subtly connecting the ancient past to living traditions. You can almost feel the quiet continuity, the gentle passing of wisdom through generations. Historians still argue whether certain religious motifs, such as the Pashupati figure or the reverence for the bull, found on Indus seals, might have been precursors to later Hindu deities like Shiva. While direct links are difficult to prove without a deciphered script, the thematic parallels are intriguing, suggesting a silent, spiritual undercurrent that survived their material decline. Their emphasis on cleanliness, their peaceful demeanor, and their incredible organizational skills without overt displays of power all leave a quiet, thought-provoking impression. It's almost as if they provided a blueprint for how a complex society could function with remarkable harmony and ingenuity, a quiet challenge to the notion that power must always be loud and ostentatious. You can almost hear the soft, distant echo of their lives, a quiet testament to a civilization that perfected the art of subtle brilliance.